Hello and welcome to English Buddy Daily, the podcast where we chat about interesting topics to help you learn Monglish. I'm Anna, one of your hosts.
And I'm Mark. Hi, everyone. Today, we've got a fascinating discussion lined up for you on English Buddy Daily. Ann and I are going to debate a big question. Should we choose careers based primarily on passion rather than income?
That's right. So basically, should you pick a job you love, even if it doesn't pay much, or go for a high-paying job, even if you don't really like it? Mark and I might have opposing views on this. It should make for an exciting chat.
Absolutely. To let our listeners know, Anna tends to be on the passion side of this debate, and I'm more on the practical side. We'll keep it friendly, of course. Ready to dive in?
Ready. I'll start. Personally, I firmly believe that following your passion is super important. We spend so much of our lives working. Why waste decades in a job you don't enjoy? I say choose a career you love, something that makes you excited to get up every morning. When you work with passion, you feel fulfilled. Fulfilled means satisfied and happy because you're doing something meaningful. A fulfilling job gives you purpose.
I get what you're saying. It's important to enjoy what you do, but I have to disagree a bit here. I think we need to be pragmatic. That means practical and realistic when choosing a career. Passion is great, but we all have bills to pay. You need financial stability, a steady, reliable income to cover your expenses. If you ignore income completely, you might end up stressed about money, and that's not fun either.
True, we can't ignore money. Even I, as the passion advocate, know that we need enough income to live. However, I'd argue that once your basic needs are met, money isn't everything. There's the famous saying, money can't buy happiness. If you're stuck in a job you hate just because it pays well, you could face burnout. Burnout is extreme exhaustion and stress from overworking or doing work you don't enjoy. I've seen people burn out in high-paying careers. They're exhausted, unhappy, and their mental health suffers. No paycheck is worth that, in my opinion.
I've heard that saying too, but I think it's only partly true. Money itself may not buy happiness, but it can solve a lot of problems. Having a good salary can reduce stress about paying a rent or mortgage, which is a home loan, and it gives you security. In fact, I read about a study that said happiness increases when you go from low income to a comfortable income. It found that people earning under a certain amount, something like $75,000 a year, were less happy. But once you reach that comfortable salary, having more money doesn't make you much happier. The key is reaching that comfortable point. If following a passion means you're constantly worrying about making ends meet, struggling to pay for basic necessities, that passion might turn into frustration.
That's a fair point. You need to cover the basics. But how about this? I read a survey that said nearly 60% of Americans would choose a job they love over a job they hate, even if it paid only half as much. Can you imagine? Most people would sacrifice income to do work they're passionate about. That shows how powerful passion can be. People crave meaningful work. There's another statistic. Only about 31% of U.S. workers feel engaged at their jobs. Engaged here means actively involved, enthusiastic, and committed. So nearly 70% are not engaged. Probably because they're in jobs they don't care about. That's sad. I think if more people pursued their calling means a strong inner urge or a passion for a particular career, we'd have more innovation, happier workplaces, and people would actually enjoy Monday mornings.
I don't doubt those numbers, and I've seen surveys like that too. They sound inspiring. Who wouldn't want to love their job? But let me play devil's advocate for a moment. Those people saying if they take a pay cut for a job they love, I wonder if they'd feel the same when reality hits, like when rent is due or they have family to support. And get this, a lot of young people say they can't prioritize passion because of financial pressure. I saw a report that about 62% of millennials, people in their 20s and 30s, work primarily for the paycheck, not passion.
Many young adults have student loans, high living costs, you name it. It's not that they don't want to follow their passion, it's that they feel like they have to be practical. For them, choosing a high-paying job isn't about being greedy or materialistic. Materialistic means too focused on money or possessions. It's about survival and security. Following a dream can feel like a luxury.
I understand that. It is a privilege sometimes to choose passion over pay. Not everyone can afford to do that, I admit. But I believe if there's a will, there's a way. Some people choose a simpler lifestyle so they can work in a field they love. They might live frugally, which means spend very little money, or cut expenses to make it work. They're willing to sacrifice, meaning give up some comfort or income because doing what they love every day makes them happier in the long run. I actually have a friend who quit a high-paying corporate job to become a school teacher, which paid a lot less. She downsized her apartment and budget, yes, but she's so much happier teaching kids. She says the personal reward and joy she gets are priceless. Her job is rewarding and aligns with her passion for education, and she doesn't mind a smaller paycheck.
That's really nice for her, and I respect that a lot. But not everyone who chases a passion ends up happy. I know someone who tried to turn his passion for music into a career. He gave up a stable job to be a full-time musician. It sounds great, but he struggled to find gigs that paid. He was constantly worried about money, doing odd jobs on the side to get by. Eventually, the stress of that unstable life overshadowed the joy he got from music. He actually grew to resent playing music because it reminded him of his stress. That's tough when your passion becomes a source of anxiety. Sometimes turning your passion into your job can even diminish your love for it, especially if you're barely scraping by financially.
That's a good cautionary tale. It shows there is a trade-off here. Trade-off means a situation where you gain something but lose something else, kind of a compromise. If you follow a passion, you might lose some income. If you chase money, you might lose some joy. It's not an easy choice. I agree, but I think there are ways to find a balance. For example, some people manage to do both, maybe work a stable job and pursue their passion as a side hustle or hobby until it grows, or find a career that is a middle ground, something they like and that pays decently. It might not be their biggest dream job, but it's also not something they hate.
Yes, I am all for a compromise. Compromise is like a middle ground where each side gives a bit. One compromise could be exactly what you said. Keep your passion in your life, but don't rely on it to pay the bills until it's viable. Or find a job that you like enough, which is also lucrative. Lucrative means producing a lot of money, high paying, and maybe not your biggest passion, but something you don't mind doing. Not every passion needs to be a career. Sometimes, if you make your passion your full-time job, it can turn into pressure. Like your friend who became a musician, suddenly his art was tied to his income, and that caused stress. So a compromise could protect your passion from becoming a burden.
That's a sensible idea, actually, and it highlights another thing. Passions can change or evolve, and practical needs can change too. The decision isn't always once and for all. Some people start with a practical job for financial security and later transition to a passion career once they've saved up or gained experience, or vice versa. Start with the passion job when you're young and free, and maybe later switch to something more stable if you're a priority shift. I think it's important to reflect on what you truly want from life at different stages. If you have a family, your calculations might be different than when you're single.
Exactly. It often depends on personal circumstances. One thing I think we both agree on is that extreme choices have downsides. If you only go for money and hate your job, you might end up miserable even if your bank account is full. And if you only follow passion without any plan for income, you could end up in financial trouble, which also makes you miserable. It's about finding that sweet spot.
Right. Ultimately, we want to avoid both regret and misery. Imagine working 40 plus years in a job you dislike just for money. You might regret not pursuing your dreams, On the other hand, you don't want to end up saying, I chased my dream and now I'm broke and regret not having a stable life. It's a tough choice.
It is a tough choice, and the answer may be different for each person. Some people value security and stability more, and that's okay. Others value passion and creative freedom more. Ideally, we find a career that offers both money and meaning, but that's like finding a treasure. Not everyone gets that perfect mix.
Yeah, those people are lucky. Folks whose passion is well-paid field. Like if someone's passion is computer programming or engineering, they might get both a fulfilling job and a good income. But if someone's passion is something like poetry or art, they know up front it's might not pay much, so they have a harder decision.
And sometimes people discover passion in a job they chose for money. Maybe you start a job just because it's stable, and over time you get good at it, you gain confidence, and you start to enjoy it. Passion can grow. I have a colleague who took a job in marketing mainly because it was a stable 9-to-5 job, not because she was especially passionate about marketing. But after a couple of years, she found she actually loves crafting campaigns and messages. She discovered a passion for it. So it can happen. Intrinsic motivation can develop. By the way, intrinsic motivation means being driven by internal rewards and personal interest, whereas extrinsic motivation is driven by external rewards like money or praise. In her case, an extrinsic reason, money, led her to a job, but she found intrinsic motivation in it later.
That's a great point. And the opposite can happen too. Someone can turn their hobby into a job and then find it's not as fun when it's work. So nothing is guaranteed. Still, my heart leans toward encouraging people to find work they feel passionate about. Life is short and work takes up a lot of our time. Doing something you care about can give you energy rather than drain you. It's better for your soul, I think. You wake up with enthusiasm instead of dread. Personally, I choose the job I love over a higher paycheck in a heartbeat, as long as I can live on that paycheck. The good thing is, when you truly love what you do, you often put in more effort, become really good at it, and sometimes that leads to success and money down the line anyway. It's not guaranteed, but passion can fuel hard work and creativity, which can open doors.
I agree with you that passion can lead to great things. People who love their work often go the extra mile, but I'll emphasize that financial stability is the foundation. It's like building a house. Passion is the beautiful design and paint that makes it yours, but money is the solid ground and bricks that keep it standing. Without a solid foundation, that house, your career and life can collapse. If you're constantly worried about paying bills, it's hard to enjoy even the job you love. The stress can take the fun out of it. So I often tell people, first, aim to be able to support yourself. That might mean sometimes taking a job that isn't your dream, at least for a while. Think of it as a step towards your passion. Earn, save, build skills. You can pursue your passion on the side, maybe take classes, do it as a hobby or a small business. Once you have a financial cushion and savings or a steady income, you can try making the passion your main gig if you still want to. It's about being responsible and planning.
That makes sense, like a phased approach or having a plan B. It's true, passion and practicality don't have to be mutually exclusive. You can be a dreamer and a realist at the same time. Actually, many people do exactly what you described. They call it a side hustle when you work on your passion project in your free time while holding a day job. If it takes off, great. If not, you still have your stable career.
And some people are perfectly fine with their job just being a job, a means to an end. They work to earn money. A means to an end means doing something as a way to achieve something else, here money to fund their life, and they find fulfillment outside of work through family, hobbies, community, etc. That's okay too. Not everyone needs their job to be their passion. Sometimes a job can just be a job, and you live your passionate life after 5 p.m. and on weekends.
That's very true. There isn't one formula for everyone. I guess it comes down to individual values and circumstances. For me, the ideal is to have both, to earn enough and love what I do. But if I had to choose, I'd lean toward passion because I value happiness and personal fulfillment more than a fancy lifestyle. I can live with a smaller house or an older car if it means I wake up happy to go to work.
And I lean towards ensuring financial security because I've seen what financial stress can do to people. I value having a safety net and not worrying about basics. I feel I can always enjoy my passions in my free time if needed. But hey, if we can have both, that's the dream, right?
Absolutely. Both is best. So, Mark, what do you think? Should our listeners follow their hearts or follow the money?
I'd say follow your heart, but bring your brain with you. In other words, consider passion and practicality. If your heart says art, but your wallet says, I need a stable job, maybe work during the day and do art on the weekends until you find a way to make art pay. Don't abandon your passion, but don't ignore your finances either.
That's a great way to put it. And I'd say don't settle for misery just for money. If you're in a high-paying job you hate, look for ways to shift toward work you enjoy, even if it means a pay cut. Maybe not abruptly, but plan for it. Life is too short to stay in a job that makes you unhappy. Sometimes taking a risk on your passion can lead to a more rewarding life, even if it's challenging.
Well said. So it sounds like we both agree that a balance is important, even if we emphasize different sides. I guess our debate wasn't as fiery as expected, but hopefully it gave our listeners some food for thought.
Definitely. It's a complex issue with no one-size-fits-all answer. But before we finish, how about we review some of the vocabulary from my conversation today? We used a lot of useful words and phrases.
Great idea. Let's go over some of the new or important words that we highlighted to make sure everyone remembers them.
Pragmatic. This means practical and realistic. For example, being pragmatic about career choices means considering the real life factors like income and job security, not just ideals.
Financial stability. This refers to having enough steady income to cover your expenses and live comfortably. If you have financial stability, you aren't constantly worrying about money for basic needs.
Fulfilled or fulfillment. Feeling fulfilled means feeling satisfied and happy because you're doing something meaningful. A fulfilling career is one that makes you feel content and proud.
Burnout. This is a state of extreme exhaustion, both mental and physical, often caused by excessive stress or overwork. We talked about burnout as a risk when someone works in a job they hate or works too many hours without rest.
Calling. Your calling is a strong inner urge or feeling of duty toward a particular career or life path. If you say teaching is your calling, it means you feel meant to be a teacher. Similar to this is vocation, which also means a career or occupation you feel is right for you. For example, he found his vocation in nursing.
Materialistic. This means focusing too much on money and material possessions. We said someone isn't being materialistic if they choose a high-paying job out of necessity. Materialistic describes a person who prioritizes money over other values.
Trade-off. This means a situation where you have to give up one thing to get another. We mentioned the trade-off between passion and income. Gaining one might mean losing a bit of the other. It's like a compromise.
Yes, and speaking of compromise, that's another word. Compromise means finding a middle ground or making a deal where each side gives up something to reach an agreement. In careers, a compromise might be choosing a moderately paid job that you kind of like instead of either a dream job with no pay or a high-paid job you hate.
Lucrative. We use this word to describe a job that is high-paying. Lucrative means profitable or financially rewarding. For example, software engineering is a lucrative field for many people.
Intrinsic motivation. This is when you are motivated by internal factors. You do something because you enjoy it or find it meaningful. In our discussion, following passion is driven by intrinsic motivation. You love the work itself. On the other hand, extrinsic motivation is being motivated by external factors like money, rewards, or approval. Working solely for a paycheck is driven by extrinsic motivation.
Work-life balance. This phrase means having a healthy balance between your work, your career, and your personal life. A good work-life balance means you have time and energy for your job
and for yourself, your family, hobbies, etc. We touched on this when we mentioned people consider work-life balance a factor in job decisions.
It engaged. In the context of work, if you are engaged in your job, you are enthusiastic, involved, and committed to your work. We talked about only 31% of workers feeling engaged at work, meaning the majority do not feel interested or passionate about what they do.
Job satisfaction. This is how happy or content you are with your job. High job satisfaction means you generally like your work and feel good about it. We implied that passion can increase job satisfaction, while a job you dislike, even if well paid, can lower it.
Sacrifice. To sacrifice something important or valuable in order to gain or do something else. We talked about it. Sometimes people sacrifice a higher income to follow their passion or sacrifice their passion for a stable income.
I think that covers a lot of the main vocabulary we use today. There were quite a few new words and phrases in our chat today.
Yes, we covered a lot of ground. To our listeners, don't worry if you don't remember them all immediately. You could always listen again and practice using these new words. The more you review, the more they'll stick.
Exactly. Practice makes perfect. We hope you not only enjoy the debate, but also learn something new in English today.
Thank you for joining us on English Buddy Daily. It was really fun to talk about this topic.
It sure was. And thanks, Mark, for the great discussion. Even if we had different opinions, I think we both learned from each other.
Agreed. And thank you, listeners, for spending time with us. Feel free to think about this question yourself. Would you choose a career for passion or for income? It's a useful thought exercise.
We'll catch you on the next episode. Until then, stay curious and keep learning.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day and see you next time on English Buddy Daily.
Bye-bye. Have a great day.